This is going to be the most powerful Apple ecosystem that we can assemble. We've talked budget, we've talked useful, we've talked all sorts of other systems, but today it's time to take the kid gloves off and see what all of these things can actually do. So what can we buy to set up our own little jet propulsion simulation laboratory? Let's find out. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. When we make a video like this, first off, we really need to start with a couple of disclaimers before we get into the video. I actually have no idea what it takes to run a jet propulsion simulation laboratory. If you didn't know that, I'm not a rocket scientist. No, I don't actually recommend that you go out and buy all of this stuff unless you have the specific need for each individual piece. With all of that troll repellent placed up front, let's dive into it. Now, I could make my life far easier by going through, finding all the most expensive things that Apple sells, slap it into this video, and call it good. But I'm not gonna do that. This video, yes, okay, it is a bit of fun and pie in the sky thought experiment, so what I've done is I've gone through to get functional things, even if the highest end of functionality will also, take your wallet to the highest ends of pain. Though, we should maybe do another version of this video called The Most Expensive Apple Ecosystem, where we just load up on all the fanciest, most outrageous stuff that we can find and see what that comes out to. If you want to see that, just let me know in the comments. So without further ado, let's build us a system. Easily the most expensive part of this kit will be the computer. You can't get power without price. But what surprised me was how hard of a decision this actually was to make. I didn't think that this would be that tough when I originally wanted to lay this all out. With the latest MacBook update from Apple, we've got a very new style of processor, the likes of which we've never seen before. That 10-core M1 Max processor can be purchased in both the 16 and the 14-inch MacBook Pros, and it's for real. It's one of the most powerful processors I've ever seen, and that's not just in a laptop, but ever. However, inside of the Mac lineup is also the Mac Pro, an actual tower-shaped computer that can be equipped with a staggering 28-core Intel Xeon processor that can boost up to 4.4 gigahertz. Yes, that's an absurd core count, and it will outperform the 10-core M1 Max in multi-threaded tasks when you have it loaded up like that. It won't do as well with single-core functionality, and part of that is due to the fact that that processor is a much older generation of tech than the latest Apple chips, and I understand that that's an extremely simplified explanation. The reason I went back and forth about this is yes, you can absolutely configure a Mac Pro kit to be better at certain things than an M1 Max MacBook Pro, but it's very dependent on certain needs and workflows. So much so that I almost considered including one of each inside of this video because hey, it's just a label, right? But to include that Mac Pro stretches the limits of believability. Because to get more power than the M1 Max MacBook Pro 16, you've got to spend upward of $20,000 or more, where the top of the line 16-inch MacBook Pro running at full power will be $38.99 for the 10-core processor, 32-core GPU, and 64 gigabytes of unified memory. You didn't think anything would make the 16-inch MacBook Pro sound cheap, right? The deciding factor for this was simply that I make videos for regular folks and not data scientists or other very niche specialized tasks. You are all great though. Everybody that watches is great. So I'm going with something that's expensive, yes, but something that actually makes sense that you watching this video might need and go out and buy. So maxed out MacBook Pro Max it is. And you may have noticed this, but something that hasn't been irritating at all is how much Max and Max sound alike. So when you say M1 Max Max, it doesn't track very well. You did this to us, Apple. Very long story long, the computer for our most powerful Apple ecosystem will be that M1 Max MacBook Pro 16 running with a 32-core GPU, 64 gigabytes of unified memory, and let's go 4 terabyte solid-state drive because if I remember correctly, the higher-end SSDs get the fastest write speed. That comes to a total of $48.99, which, yikes, but buckle in, team, because those dollar signs are gonna keep hurting the farther we go along, and it's still better than the Mac Pro would have cost. What this MacBook allows you to do is basically have a full-on portable desktop computer wherever we go. Like we mentioned, it's got a wickedly powerful CPU, but also has one of the strongest graphical systems that we've seen in a modern laptop. And no, it won't hold its own against something like the desktop version of the RTX 3080 Ti or 3090. One, those are practically impossible to get a hold of, and two, on the aftermarket, they cost almost as much as the MacBook Pro by itself. Thanks, scalpers. And when we talk size, it's a huge desktop graphics card. The display on this MacBook is incredible, and you don't need to supplement it with anything else unless you really want to. And what's cool about that is it will also be able to move from travel work computer to full-on desktop computer with a single cable and it can also send out to 4 separate displays just from the Thunderbolt and HDMI ports alone. Plus, there is an SD card reader. And look, I'm a YouTuber. I believe that in my AdSense contract, it stipulates that I have to talk about SD cards in every single video when I talk about a computer. It's out of my hand, team. This is pretty much the computer that I personally use, except that I have the 32 gigabytes of unified memory and a 1 terabyte solid state drive variant, though I am very much regretting that 1 terabyte hard drive if we're being honest with each other. This is almost a perfect computer, and I wouldn't hesitate to call it one were it not for a few niggling problems that I've had connecting it to external storage devices. To get around that, I built a media management system in my office that handles all data transfers and unplugged my MacBook from my RAID. That's not excessive, right? Building a whole thing and having to set up a whole woodworking shop to set that up, that seems very reasonable. Okay, the next part of this powerful ecosystem should hopefully be a little less contentious. Maybe. Whether it is or not, the next part is the 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro, specifically the base model version, because though you can get a model with 2 terabytes of storage, my mobile devices are always connected to some sort of cloud, and that extra onboard physical memory, it feels like wasted money to me. So we're not trying to waste money today. So this is the 12.9-inch silver model, 128 gigabytes of storage, coming in at $1099. I originally hadn't planned on including an iPad in this ecosystem because it's about power, it's not about versatility. And it felt like just tacking something on just cuz. However, over the past few weeks, I've been using the crap out of this. Seriously, I think I've used this more than I've used every other piece of technology of mine other than my phone because it's the perfect modeling, planning, and scheduling tool. I've got a few key projects that I'm working on in the background, and the iPad Pro has been the linchpin in all of them. One, I've been customizing my office workspace by designing and building my own workbenches and furniture. Very rudimentary workbenches and furniture, as I've never woodworked before, but you know, we all learn and we all grow at our own pace. Two, I've started the planning process of a brand new YouTube channel that will launch in the March timeframe, so keep your eyes on the lookout for that because I am beyond excited about it. Three, to manage all of that stuff, I need to make sure that all 4, and yes, unfortunately right now it's 4, of my daily calendars are all synced up so I don't miss out on anything. And the iPad is the single part of that that makes all of this actually doable. On top of that, much like the MacBook, the iPad Pro has such a beautiful screen, which also has Apple's ProMotion, allowing for a much faster refresh rate. And something that I realized as I was typing this script, all of the items in this ecosystem that have reasonably large screens, they all have 120 Hz refresh rate. And that feels crazy to say because it feels like it was just yesterday that Apple was still the only company not doing that. It's wild to think that they leaned so heavily into those smoother, higher end displays. I think the iPads and the MacBooks are perfect companions for each other because there are a host of cool things that you can do on the go with this kit. You can have dual screens for the MacBook. You can add a touchscreen type control to the MacBook through the iPad. You can transfer files instantly, share projects, all the normal Apple ecosystem stuff, which is why we're making this video in the first place. It's so much more useful to have an iPad and a Mac than a Mac and another Mac. Plus, if you need to do any teleconferencing, the Mac will be competent at it, but the iPad has the new ultra-wide angle front-facing camera from Apple with center stage. So you can set this up in a ton of different environments from solo use to team use and have this be your single teleconferencing setup. We've got the brain, we've got the heart. Now it's time to get the cellular connection? I don't think people have cellular connections installed yet, so the metaphor kinda just fell flat, and we're still talking about it. Wait, you're killing the joke, Gary. The next part will be our cell phone, because yes, you do probably need to talk to people from time to time. And even though you can get a cellular version of the iPad Pro, it doesn't do all the phone things that you might need. So, you know what? Let's toss in a phone. And this should come as no surprise, because I talk this darn phone up at literally every single chance, and that's the iPhone 13 Pro Max. This will cost the exact same as the iPad, coming in at $1099. Remember, I don't do storage upgrades on mobile devices, so that 128 gigabyte solid state drive is just as good here as it was on the iPad. Here's a shocking note to start off when I just recommended something. I hate the size of this phone. I hate it. I wish this phone was the size of the 13 mini, and I really wish we could reverse this trend of giant glass slabs that keep creeping up and bigger and bigger, while tablets seem to be getting smaller and smaller. But I love every other single thing about this. The call quality is great, the screen is amazing, the power is crazy, the cameras are legitimate, and the battery is unreal. real. No, I don't keep a thesaurus open on my desk while writing all these scripts. Why do you ask? Seriously though, I don't think there's a more useful phone on the market today. Yes, that comes from somebody inside the bubble of the Apple system, so who knows, maybe there is another brand out there that makes a phone that can go 2 days without needing a charge, works seamlessly with your computer and your tablet system, and has cameras that are as good as your big expensive cameras. Maybe that exists, and if one does and it works for you, go for it. But I still think the 13 Pro Max is the best phone, and that's awesome because we needed to include it here in the most powerful ecosystem. This gets the nod to the most powerful because while it has the same A15 processor inside of it as the 13 and the 13 mini, the Pro phones get a little bump in graphical prowess over those non-professional models. Do I think it's enough to really see much of a difference? Nope. Do I think I'll exploit that bigger number for an arbitrary graph for a YouTube video? Yep. Plus the display is gorgeous, and I hate to say it, but once you get used to it, you really start to notice the choppiness on older and lower end iPhones. All these screens are like that, by the way. Once you invest in this most powerful system, the lesser options will start to lose their luster. We'll probably need some kind of headphones to keep ourselves dedicated to our task at hand, and it wouldn't be the most powerful if we didn't take this to the max. So the Airpods Max sound like the perfect fit. These are ridiculously expensive headphones that the internet hated at first, but they seem to love now. I rarely use mine, but they boast very impressive audio specs and features, and while I'm not sure how to describe them, they look very Apple. No, they don't have a notch like the Mac and the iPhone, but you see these things from anywhere, and you know they are AirPods. These will run you $549 for the set, and I gotta say, trying these out again to make this video, these are incredibly comfortable, and I really like that on each ear cup, it's clearly labeled L and R. One of the things that drives me crazy about headphones is when I can't figure out which side goes where, and I gotta stare at the side and like, I think that's the L. You may laugh at me, but that happens to me more often than you might realize. Plus, these are fairly customizable for headphones in that you can change out the magnetic ear cups for any of the colors of your choice. It's a great set to add to this ecosystem, and with their H1 processor in each ear, these are definitely the most powerful headphones. But I think all of the new AirPods have the H1. But it's more powerful in here. Reasons. And lastly but not leastly, we've got to throw in an Apple Watch here, and it should come as no surprise that we're leveraging that newest, most powerful S7 processor to clearly have the most powerful watch, which is the Apple Watch Series 7. I use mine 6 days a week for running, I use mine 7 days a week for notification, and I use mine constantly to take dictations and set reminders for myself, because if I have to stop and think and then type them into my phone, chances are I will forget whatever I wanted to type because I have the worst short-term memory. Not too much else to say about the watch. It's a great addition to any ecosystem, and it's really a great bow to place on top of this because it shows how Apple can provide you a solution at any level. If you look at what kind of levels you might need in tech, you got it everywhere. Computing, communication, personal health, design, scheduling, everything you could need. I know that other companies make fantastic devices, and some of their individual products rival or surpass individual Apple options, but no one makes anything that covers a spectrum like this as well as Apple. But at the end of the day, so what, right? Whoo! That is a powerful ecosystem, and if you are in the right business, this might be the thing to get. I guess the only part that I don't personally own inside of this video is that maxed out MacBook Pro 16. Like I said, I have the 32GB of unified memory option because I've never even come close to hitting a memory limit on this computer. So while it's powerful, I actually think it's pretty darn useful as well. It is powerful, it's efficient, it's expensive, yes, but it allows for seamless transfer of ideas, plans, schedules, everything that you need to stay on track, and it has enough oomph to also handle all those creation tasks, no problem as well. Should you buy all of this? No, absolutely not. If you have the need for things like this, you already know and you've started planning it out. And if you don't need these specific things, I've got a ton of other ecosystem videos for you to check out. But what about you? If you were going for a power system, would you choose Apple or would you choose something else? Let me know what you all have built in the comments below because I love to hear everybody's opinion. And maybe there's some kind of hybrid Apple, Samsung, Windows ecosystem that I haven't even thought of that you have built. Let me know. Let me know. And if you like this video and you want to check out my video where I compare the MacBook Pro 16 and 14 to see what the actual differences are 2 months later and how you can slot it into your own ecosystem, good news. I got a video for that you can find by clicking right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.